Don't just look on Amazon. It's all there, right? And thank you for saving the day. Boy. Let's see. It's the anniversary, 75th, right?
Yes, no,
80th. That's right. I just came from Lone Pine last weekend. Lone Pine is the extension of the back lot of Republic. And there's a wonderful museum there, so if you're ever going up there, you must see the museum of it's now going to be called the Museum of Western History and Film History in Lone Pine. It's a wonderful museum. It's like a mini Autry. That quality of stuff they have in it, and it's just a new building. It's beautiful. And if you've ever been to the Alabama hills where a lot of these Republic westerns and serials were shot, you have to go because it's surreal up there. It's incredible. And you see, I gave a lecture here for the Studio City history. You know which arrow to push, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. There's 4 arrows there. So anyway, we had a lecture here on Studio City history, which is intertwined with Republic history, of course. And so tonight, I'm going to intertwine, today, it's not night yet, we're going to intertwine, let's see, Studio City history, Republic history, and this, the creation of Studio City, which was created by movie people, which I'm going to tell you about. So in other words, I'm giving you a little bit of Studio City history and Republic history together, okay? But no, we're not going to go into the CBS Studio Center history and all this stuff, except for 2 pictures I have at the end. One showing James Arness in Gunsmoke, and Have Gun Will Travel with Richard Boone. There's 2 behind-the-scenes kind of shots, kind of nice. Now, real quickly, because I'm watching that clock, because this will go. I have a lot of stuff to show you. When you leave, you'll be an expert on all this. I assure you. Because I'm going to show you not just pictures of cowboys and Linda Sterling, whipping somebody, but pretty much the studio itself, the construction, the beginnings, the stages, and the areas surrounding it. Now, let's go back to this is 1922. And this is Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Canyon. Do you like that? Now, of course, as you all probably know, it's focused, right? Yeah, it's focused, I'm sure. The valley, as you can see, was all, the agricultural. There was, of course, orange groves and every kind of grove you can imagine. Next shot. Let's see if it works. The arrow.
Pushing
the arrow. Yes.
Maybe you just
I think so. Sorry about this. We go again.
you put it on pause. I'm sorry.
Shaking from this ordeal. All right. This is the Hollywood Country Club at Coldwater Canyon and Ventura Boulevard in 1922. This is Coldwater Canyon. I have a pointer. I ran out to get it. There's Coldwater Canyon, and there's Ventura Boulevard, and you see the golf course, and of course the Harvard Westlake is all these buildings. And so many people don't realize it was a big country club. So in other words, this area between, and by the way, this is all considered North Hollywood. It's not considered Sherman Oaks or any of this. It was North Hollywood at this time until Studio City became an actual little enclave in the valley. Next, let's see if it'll work. Oh, good, it's working. Universal City has already been out by the way, the border of Studio City is Campo de Cuenca on Cuenca Boulevard, which most people don't realize that. Studio City goes all the way up to there, right in front of Universal. Universal was there in 1912, and it's now... 1915. No, 1912. Let me explain that, what she means. Because I consider it a controversy because it's not a controversy. No, they consider it controversial, I don't. Universal rented a ranch, which is now today Forest Lawn, in 1912. They were there to 1913, where they created Universal City. They tried to buy the land in 1914, and the people, there was the Providencia Rancho, they wouldn't sell the land. So they bought another portion of land at Lancashire in 1914 and moved there in March 15, 1915, and had its third opening. There was an opening in 1912, another opening in 1913, and the final one in 1915, and that's what Universal is celebrating now, is the third opening of their present site. That's how you have to explain all these things. It's driving me crazy. Next, let's see if it works. Oh, it's working. Just keep your fingers crossed, please pray. This is Universal looking east, and this is Lancashire Boulevard right here, and those are the sets for the Hunchback of Notre Dame. This shot was taken in 1925. This is the Phantom stage for Phantom of the Opera in 1923. And you look at the valley here, that Burbank and that whole area all the way down there, and that's the Lasky Ranch. That's where Universal was before they moved here. You follow me? So, in other words, when they moved there, the Lasky Feature Play Company of the Squaw Man fame, which we're now in our last year, our 100-year anniversary, they took that over. It was known as the Lasky Ranch. So everybody was using these hills. Every studio was using backlot of Universal, backlot of this place. I'm telling you, this was movie area from 1912 up to 1925. When, next, when a property like this is Radford Drive and Ventura. This is the site of the Republic Studio. There's the LA River, constantly running through everybody's land, including Universal land. Next. Oh, it's working, Mary. Oh, God. I'm telling you, it's just driving me crazy. This is Al Christie. Al Christie with his mother and Victoria Ford, the future wife. When this was taken in 1926, she was the wife of Tom Mix, and Dorothy Davenport, the wife of Wallace Reed, who died in 1922. But Al Christie was the first, with the Horsley brothers, to open the very first studio in Hollywood at Gower and Sunset. Next. This is what Gower and Sunset looked like in 1926. This was the Christie Studios. The Nestor Studio used to be right here on this corner. The Nestor Company came in 1911 with Al Christie and the Horsleys and all, and they produced westerns. And guess where they shot those westerns? At the, of course, Lasky Ranch, which was the early Universal Ranch, remember, at Forest Lawn. If I get it straight. And so Al Christie became one of the biggest producers of comedies in Hollywood, and his good friend, Max Sennett, was producing Keystone and later Max Sennett comedies in Edendale, which is Glendale Boulevard near Sunset, north of where Alvarado is, over there. And we're going to get to the plaque, by the way. I did put it in. Next. God, it's working. I can't get over it. This is Charles and Al Christie. The reason I'm bringing them in is because it was Charles and Al Christie, who were also in the real estate business, who made a deal with a major company who sold ranches to companies and individuals, who in 1926 and 27 sold Paramount, its Paramount Ranch in Agoura. So they made the same deal with that company to acquire this land, that empty lot I showed you at Radford there and Ventura Boulevard, and they're the ones that developed Studio City. It was first called the Central Motion Picture District. I just chime in because my computer's not that quick. And that started this whole ball rolling. Max Sennett, good friend, of course, of Al Christie's, was running out of space and steam at their old studio. Next. That's Max Sennett as he looked around 1921. Next. This is the Keystone Studio in Edendale I was telling you about. This is Mr. Kessel of the New York Motion Picture Film Company, which owned the Keystone brand. This is Mabel Normand. Many of you might know of her. That's Ford Sterling of the Keystone Cops, and Max Sennett discussing the scenes. But look at the men are building the new flooring there at the studio. They had to constantly do that because it was rained on all the time. They had open stages, so they would get buckled and everything. Had to keep changing them every year. Next. And here is a perfect case on this. There's the scene. There is the sets and everything. That's Fred Konenkamp, the cameraman, Max Sennett, and that's Chester Conklin in the back. But look at this. See these diffusers over the stage. They're made out of cloth. And they would drag them across the stage, which would diffuse the light. Interestingly enough, at the Hollywood Heritage Museum, which Mary and I are connected to, across from the bowl, we are redoing the barn in the back. We are actually building a silent film stage like this with the actual diffusers and everything. We're going to have demonstrations of how silent filmmaking was actually done. I don't know of anywhere in the country that does that or will do that. Next. That's the studio in Edendale. That's the big concrete stage that was built in 1915 by Max Sennett. It's still there today, and at the end of the slideshow, I will show you what, well, maybe it's coming up. It might be coming up. Anyway, so these are the open stages. There's the administration building. This is lot 2. And then right over here in the right is lot 3, where they had a giant cyclorama, and people would run on a treadmill, and the scenery would go by. That's typical slapstick comedy. Next. And guess who was working in these places? Gloria Swanson and others, and Carol Lombard. They both started as Keystone, well, not Keystone Girls, Max Sennett comedy girls. But this is Mabel Norman right here. In one of her last pictures she shot at this studio. There's the dressing room block right there. Why did this get smaller? Oh, there we go. Better.
It's in Edendale?
Edendale. It's still called Edendale. It's in between Echo Park and Silver Lake. Glendale Boulevard, off of Alvarado and Sunset, going north, where the 2 freeway dumps its cars into. That's where all this was. It was called Hollywood before Hollywood. There was at least 6 or 7 studios there. Check out my new book. That's a plug. Called Early Poverty Row Studios. It's an Arcadia publication. And it covers the whole history of all these tiny studios. And believe it or not, all this is leading to Republic. Because Republic was formed with some of these little studios that actually grew to start to grow larger, like Monogram, but others like Liberty and Chesterfield were just production companies. But they were all from this tradition of these old days of the filmmaking in LA. Next. That's another shot. Look at this ramshackle place. It was like, what a fire trap. For some reason, it didn't burn down in all the years. It was established there in 1912 with, yes, the Bison Film Company, which I named my archive after. And 1909, excuse me, not 1912, 1909 they were there. Keystone came in 1912, and then Max Sennett took over Keystone. They went away, and it became in 1915 the Max Sennett Studio. Next. And look how it looked in 1927. Pretty bad. It looks like falling down. Look, the sign is even worn off from all this. I mean, it's just a dirty old place, a fire trap, and Max Sennett wanted out. Why? Because in 1926 was Don Juan, the film, the first sound synchronized commercial major motion picture film made by Warner Brothers. There were sound films. I'm working on a book now on early sound films that go back to 1895. And we can't take questions. There's no time. Really, there's no time. Believe it or not, we only have about a half an hour, so then we get kicked out. Okay, anyway, next. Okay, that's what it looked like in the 1970s. I took this picture. The Center Theater Group was using it, what was left of the Max Sennett studio. And next. This was given in 1954 to Max Sennett, who's still alive. And it was, this is the birthplace of motion picture comedy. Here's the genius of Max Sennett, took root and grew to laughter heard around the world. Here movie history was made. Here stars were born. Here reigned, and still reigns, the king of comedy, Max Sennett, presented for This Is Your Life. Next. That plaque was located up the street. Many people thought it was lost. Hollywood Heritage, first me, and then I handed it off to other Hollywood Heritage people. We saved the plaque, and we just have this new plaque dedicated, what's the date? Yeah, no.
February.
Oh, wait, that's not a new plaque. That's an older plaque.
It's the old plaque.
Yeah, 1982, when they put this plaque on the wall. That's right. This is the shot I took in the 80s of it. Never mind. Next. The reason I'm bringing it up is it's so important because many people at the lot, at the Republic lot, or CBS Studio Center, I worked there for many years on and off, and many people said, because there's a Mabel Normand plaque, which we'll get to later, that this is where, this Republic studio, here in Studio City, is where the Keystone Cops were, where Mabel Normand was, where all of this was going on with Keystone, and of course it's totally wrong. And this went on in the folklore for years and years and years. So I'm showing you right now, so there's no question, you can understand why this folklore took hold. So there's Al Christie and Max Sennett at the time of this beginning of the Studio City history. Next. They were super wealthy, very important. That's Mac at this time. Al Christie built this incredible house called Waverly Mansion, which is located still there at Sunset Boulevard and Hillcrest in Beverly Hills. You can't see it because there's giant trees blocking it, but it's incredible English-style, Tudor-style, Hollywood-style mansion. It's fantastic. And LA Conservancy is going to be there soon to discuss it because it's one of the very few mansions untouched. It's been restored, but really most of it there, of a movie mogul from the early silent era. It's hard to find those these days. Next. This is an actual stock certificate, which I couldn't get because some guy who had more money than me got it. But this is the Central Motion Picture District, 1929. And basically you get your stock in the Studio City development. The idea is to build a studio center, it means studios, production, film production, a residential neighborhood, and an economic base. That means stores and gas stations and whatever on Ventura Boulevard. The idea is to create its own little city that would all, of course, help revolve around movies, but all economically stable. Next. I suppose you don't have that stock certificate, do you?
No, I don't.
Too bad. Okay, this is the property. They're just beginning grading it here. Next. That's looking east, by the way. And there's another great shot. But I wanted to show you that Universal is, there it is. Where is it? It's right there. And there's the Hollywood sign, Mount Hollywood right there. And there is the Warner Brothers studio way over there, and Disney way down there. And all the way over here, following the river, is, of course, the Max Sennett Studio City studio. That's an incredible shot, isn't it? I wonder how long it took to drive from Hollywood there. Maybe about 10 minutes? Next. This is an actual drawing, artist's conception of the Central Motion Picture District. Now, all this was, they bought the property, I think, in around 1925 or 6, I have it. Then they started the actual building and everything pretty late, 27, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, by 27. And by 28, most of them, there weren't that many buildings were built. But they immediately started shooting. And by the way, one of the first stars for Max Sennett shooting there was Bing Crosby. No, not John Wayne and all this. See, people think Republic is only Westerns. And we all know different. Linda Sterling, who I love. Where's her son there? There he is. Okay, very good. No, I'm serious. I love Linda. I just don't have a shot of her. I put this together too quickly. I should have done that. Never mind. Next time, beat me up. But it's in the book. She's in the book. Take a look. You'll see how beautiful she was and what she did. Anyway, look at this. This was the plan. Oh, the big neighborhood here. There's the studio site right here. There's the businesses right there. Pretty much that happened, didn't it? Next. Look at the drawing. I found this drawing. Isn't it great? It's the Austin Company. They built many studios in town for many years. And it says, aerial perspective of Max Sennett Film Corporation, Studio City. I can't read that. Well, they were the builders. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, Al Christie is still involved, of course. And I have a picture. I don't know if I brought it with me, but next one. There are several pictures here that show the construction, but there's a big sign right out of the picture, and it says Al Christie Max Sennett Studios. See? But Al Christie had his big studio in Hollywood. You saw it. He didn't need, really. He upgraded it. Max Sennett had to get out, as you saw in those horrible pictures. The studio was falling down. In 1932, there was a film made called Ghosts of Hollywood, a documentary. And they went there with a voice that boomed, and it said, "And here we are. And we're here at the old Max Sennett studio." I swear that's how he sounded. And then they saw the remnants of a bathtub all smashed up and said, "This is where Mabel Normand used to take her baths." And I mean, it's really spooky. Next. And there's close-up showing you there was steel construction. This was typical the way that they built studios in those days, with struts in here and all. And the reason they built it this way, this was the strongest way because you had to hang all kinds of heavy lights and sets from the ceiling. So it's made this way so it's stronger. Next. And there's a good close-up. It says here, "New Max Sennett Studios, blah, 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 something on file, a film, something film, the Austin Company of California." Next. Showing you what's going on. There's the parts that they bring up. They're all prefab that they would bring up with the crane. Next. Now, these are a series of photographs taken by a friend of mine who's long gone. His name was William Hornbeck. Now, William Hornbeck was a famous film editor. He edited many famous films in the sound era. But guess what? You're going to love this. This is the incestuous nature of Hollywood. The property where the Bison Film Company went, where Max Sennett was, that was the Hornbeck Ranch. And that's not mine. Boy, that stopped everything, didn't it? All these strange noises, right? It gets me freaked, right? Anyway, William Hornbeck was the kid there. And William Hornbeck, when he graduated high school, well, actually before that, he was sweeping the editing rooms of a Keystone Comedy Studio and eventually became, get this, chief film editor for Max Sennett Comedies. And when they moved to the Studio City, he came and took these pictures of them building it. These have never been seen before. Next. Well, not that shot. He can't fly. But just show it. This is what they're building in the shots that he's showing you. Keep going. I have more. Another one.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I'm coming later. I don't know what I did. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I mean, that's the administration building being built. And by the way, what is all this white stuff everywhere? Yeah, it's snow.
Really?
Yes, real snow. Keep going. He told me, Mr. Hornbeck, Bill, told me many times, that's the vaults and editing rooms right here. He told me, yeah, it used to snow, as we all know. I have many pictures of Universal under snow in 1912, 1915, 1920, 25, 35. It stopped snowing as soon as more buildings were built in the area where the snow used to be. I have the Chaplin Studio in Hollywood under snow. But the more that the infrastructure was being put into the city, the warmer the streets are, the warmer the ground is, the warmer everything is, less snow. That's why in Chatsworth it's been snowing there forever, and it still does, sort of. Go on. We'll keep going. Dressing room buildings. Keep going. Okay, stop right there. I mean, here it is finally finished. It says Studio City here, of course. And you can see they had two stages. There's the mill area, shop areas here, outdoor sets and outdoor milling. There's the administration building, dressing room building attached to the stages. These are editing rooms and other facilities that they had there. And that's Radford Drive right here at the bottom and Ventura right here. Next. And that's the LA River, of course. These are different shots. I bought a glass glass negative collection a while ago, from the early 20s all the way up to the 40s, into the late 40s. And in there were a whole bunch of shots of this studio just completed. And what you're seeing here is crystal clear shots of the airplane flying around shooting all of it. Next. I mean, this is holy grail stuff. These have never been published before or seen other than me and maybe a couple other people. So it's a treat. This is Ventura Boulevard right there. Here it is. In Radford Drive. I can't get enough of these shots. The buildings were built like Spanish colonial. I call it Hollywood Spanish colonial because nothing is how can I put it? pure.
No.
It's not a pure style. The Chinese theater in Hollywood, Grauman's Chinese, is not Chinese style, you know. It's Chinese Deco-Japanese style. So if you know, I lecture a lot with LA Conservancy and architecture, and I started to look at everything differently. I went to the Pantages Theater, Art Deco, right? No, it's Hollywood Art Deco. All the motifs are actually cameras and the sun and all kinds of things relating to movie making. Then I went to other buildings. I'm looking everywhere at these homes, people's homes. It's supposed to be an English-style home. No, there's elements of everything else in the homes. In other words, the elements of LA are from a movie set. It's the changing of all these sets. That's what it really is. And you know what? The architects who were hired, Kaufman and all the rest of them, they were influenced by Hollywood. Almost everything. I don't know. There's hardly a pure building in LA other than a Frank Lloyd Wright building. That's his style. Next. These are the inner lot, but this is taken around 1929. It's okay. You can keep going. You can keep moving. These are just different shots as we see it. This was an ad in the paper. No, it doesn't say Max Sennett. It says Mac. It's just that it's, you know, it's a photocopy. It's not Max Sennett. Next. This is an actual frame enlargement from a Max Sennett talking picture. And yes, the dog barked like Leo the lion. Remember, it's a comedy, right? So he doesn't have Leo, he has a dog. It's probably his dog. Synchronized by RCA Photophone, which was one of the sound units at the time. There was a whole bunch of these companies that were supplying sound equipment for all the studios in these earliest days, 1928 to say 1931. Next. Snow. This is I think it's 1929. 28 or 29. Yes. It snowed almost every year for quite a while. Some of your parents who lived out here would know. My father moved from Chicago here in 1946, and it was still snowing in the valley. So that's pretty good. Now this is Nat Levine. Now I just hold on here. Now everything was going really wonderful with the Max Sennett Christie studio. 1929 comes. There were 3 crashes, you know, in 29, and one in 1930. 4. November was the worst one. But most people in Hollywood did not feel this crash until 1932. And not just in Hollywood, everywhere. In 1932, Paramount actually lost the Paramount Astoria studio in New York through bankruptcy. And other studios like Fox, who had other satellite studios around the world, lost all of those. But Max Sennett, now, they did not do well. They tied up their fortunes in this deal in Studio City. And by 1932, both of them were bankrupt. So bad bankrupt, Al lost that beautiful Waverly mansion in Beverly Hills. Had to move into an apartment, I think. And Max Sennett was going to build, Mary knows, Mary did a book on Hollywood Land. You know Hollywood Land as we hit in Hollywood? And he built this. Well, he didn't build it yet. It was a beautiful model and drawings of a giant, beautiful mansion in Hollywoodland, which never was realized. Al Christie actually had to go back to work as a film director. And he worked here for a short time, went to New York, worked there. And Max Sennett, I think he was directing a few things, if I remember correctly. And then he retired altogether. And it's just a terrible tragedy that these two men who built Hollywood, they literally were here in 1912. Building Hollywood, went out in bankruptcy and were almost forgotten, except that Max Sennett lived at the Garden Court Apartments on Hollywood Boulevard until he died. He used to come out and go to the Chinese theater in the forecourt. Yes, he was one of those Star Trek guys out there, you know, trying to get a picture taken, right? He was out there. People had pictures taken with Max Sennett, if they knew who he was, right? And so that was the demise. So what happened now to the studio? Well, here's the savior of the studio, Nat Levine. I knew Nat Levine. He was living at the Motion Picture Country Home when I knew him years ago. And Nat owned a company called Mascot. 1927, he started Mascot Films, which was making similar exact things as later Republic would make, or Chesterfield, Liberty, Monogram. It's all these companies. They were making westerns, serials, dramas, mysteries. They were doing all this except cheap. That's why the name Poverty Row comes in. see my book again, because you'll understand what that means. Now, at the corner of Gower and Sunset, they also call that Gower Gulch. Now, that's Poverty Row, and it's called Gower Gulch. It's both. You know why it's Poverty Row, because of all the little studios around Beechwood Drive, that whole area, which became Columbia Pictures, which was one of these Poverty Row little companies making. Actually, it was Cohn, Brandt and Cohn, Harry Cohn, Jack Cohn. They used to call it corned beef and cabbage. That's what they called it. There was another guy named Joe Rock who was with Vitagraph, who produced independently, like Nat. Nat and Joe knew each other real well. Joe Rock told me he produced 32 Western films at an office at the old Horsley studio at Beechwood and Sunset in 1927 or 8. And he made them in this office without any furniture. He had the telephone on the floor. So he had to go get a chair, and he would do this. He'd lay out everything on the floor, all of his paperwork, and that's how he produced them. That's Poverty Row. So Nat, having Mascot, literally was at the right place at the right time. The bank, who now owns the studio, needed someone to keep it open, keep it going. And so he came in and opened up Mascot at the old Max Sennett studio. Okay, now you can go ahead. That's his logo. It seems like they all have animal logos, right? You know, MGM with Leo the Lion, and we have Max Sennett with his bulldog, and now we have this one. And, oh, guess what? This is a lame one. Louis B. Mayer for Metro had a parrot. He had a little parrot. God, that is lame. Man. Okay, next. Okay, this is the kind of thing he was doing. This is the Hurricane Express. John Wayne. I'll tell you what he said about John Wayne. John Wayne, Shirley Gray, Conway Turrell, Tully Marshall, Episode 5, Danger Lights. What? Oh, Tully, you love Tully, yeah. Tully. Well, what I'm trying to say about this, all these studios, all these independents, all use A actors sometimes. Many of them weren't A actors yet. John Wayne was not an A actor yet. He was a B actor. And he was already under contract between other companies and Nat Levine. So Nat said that he had the schedule made up so he could use John Wayne on the weekend. So John Wayne would work on the weekend, and that he would go back during the week to work for the other company John Wayne was contracted to work. They made this deal out. So then they would intercut John Wayne's scenes. Remember, it's in the editing room. Remember, nothing's done hardly at all in sequence. No way. So they edit him in, and then he'd get him cheaper that way. So John Wayne would work maybe 30 hours and then be somewhere else. And that's the way that they did these Poverty Row films. Next. And yes, they did not have stunt doubles in those days until one of their stars broke the neck, and then they were in the hole for a lot of money. So, of course, most of the stars did not do the really serious stunts, even though they might say they did. The insurance company would not let them do this for obvious reasons. But we get people like Tom Mix. He would jump, he would ride, he would climb here and there, but to a point. Now, Harold Lloyd, for example, used to remember in Safety Last, he was climbing these buildings. Well, he only climbed literally less than a story with a big net below. And by the way, if you know anything about Harold Lloyd, half of his left hand was blown off in right hand, was blown off in a firecracker accident. So, yes. No, it was at the Witzel studio. It was at the Witzel photography studio. I have pictures of him all bandaged, you can imagine. But anyway, Harvey Perry, who was a famous silent stuntman in the earliest days, he doubled, I think, two stories or 3 or 4 stories, and then they hired a professional, what do you call them, a building climber. What do you call them? What? No, it's somebody, it's like a fly, he's like a human fly or something like that. Okay, so here's the studio as it was with Mascot. There's Nat, and you can see he was already, why Mascot cereals are supreme, and they continued this, beginning. Really, he's one of the earliest people doing. Now, he wasn't the first doing serials. We're talking here in Hollywood. Remember, there were serials all the way back. Perils of Pauline and all this were serials. But this was the Hollywood serial. Nat Levine really pioneered this. Next.
Where is that?
This is Radford Drive right here and Ventura Boulevard. You can't see it. It's on the right.
You took over
That's the
Republic.
same studio,
Yeah,
exactly.
Max Sennett.
There's the two stages, remember? And all those are the buildings I was showing you, except a little closer. Next. Next. This is an interior scene at Mascot at this time. This is 1934 now. Oh, by 1933, that's when everything changed. Max Sennett and Al were finished, gone, and they were looking for someone. And about late 33, if I remember correctly, I did a very in-depth history of this whole studio years ago for my encyclopedia of movie studios. So I have all the changes by month. So I'll leave it over here. You can see it afterwards. You can see exactly who came, when they came. It's just that I can't memorize it all.
Did you ever figure out what movie it is or no?
Oh, no, I haven't had time yet. I haven't had time yet. But they made these things at Republic, and after this, and shortly thereafter, in 35, 36, they actually made a film with Erich von Stroheim, believe it or not. He worked for Republic, and one was about Sherlock Holmes. I don't know the exact title, but it's something Sherlock Holmes, and this could be that Sherlock Holmes thing. See, it's an English interior. They're all wearing their dinner dress, which is tuxedos. English men wear the tuxedos. Remember, they go in to have the dinner, and then after that, the men go to the smoking room, and the ladies go to the ladies' room. See, so this shows you the early sound equipment, the early booms. The cameras were blimped, means covered, so you don't hear them whirring around in the. And this was a pioneering time of how to get sound dialogue in, and so it doesn't look like it's a play. Because, in the early days, 1920, the earlier days from DeForest phono films, which was about 1921, they would photograph plays, and the people are standing there on the stage and emoting, and all the microphone is hidden away somewhere. I mean, it's really rough. Next. And there, look at that shot as Mascot. Isn't that great? That is rare to find. It's taken me years to find these things. Where do you find them? God. A lot of research, digging, archives, flea markets, paper shows, movie memorabilia people, collectors, every way you can think of, I found pictures. I was in the garage of Wallace Worsley. Wallace Worsley was a famous director. He directed Hunchback of Notre Dame, for example. His son let me go in there and look around. And on the floor, people were stepping on it. It was a photo, right? So I picked it up, and it was a shot of the Peralta Picture Studio, which nobody's heard of, which later became part of Triangle Company. We're talking 1916, 17 period. And in there was the group shot of all the people at the studio, which is now today Raleigh Studios at Bronson and Melrose. And Wallace was one of those directors directing during the war. They were directing pictures about World War I. And in the crowd was a stand-in look-alike of King George of England. So, but I didn't see the Kaiser there. But I'm sure he was. Next. Oh, that's Studio City at this time, about 1934. See, it was really just a few houses here at that time, but still very rural. It was all agricultural. Go to Chatsworth today. Go up to Sylmar. You'll still see little areas there where they still have agricultural things going on. Remember, the Northwest Valley was olives. They were doing olives there, and what else? They have the Olive Festival, and they do, some.
Grapes.
I wrote a book on the San Fernando Valley too. Check that out, Arcadia. But
Studio City had grapes, peaches, pears, walnuts.
and dates, not dates. It was olives. It was olives, I think.
There were two other.
Anyway, keep going. And that's a well. Did you see that? They had their own wells. A lot of this was before. Well, the aqueduct, remember, came in 1911 to 1913, and a lot of the water for all of this growing in the valley came from, of course, well water. Okay, next. Oh yeah, no, don't go next. PRC Studios. I put this in here to show you this because this PRC is Producers Releasing Corp, and they made westerns and the whole same thing, all these little companies. I'm showing you these other companies because Republic is made up of, as I said, Monogram, Liberty, Chesterfield, and what I left out somebody. Next. This is Gower and Sunset. This is the Christie Studio. This is Poverty Row. All this was the Century Studio. This was the early days of Universal in Hollywood before they moved to their ranch in 1912, the first ranch. And this is the basis of how Republic came to be, because Herbert Yates, which we'll get to in a moment, he really drew from this tradition. Next. This is Western pictures. This is Beechwood Drive, where they had a whole bunch of, Chesterfield was there. They had a whole bunch of these studios like Chesterfield and Monogram. They all worked around Beechwood and Sunset, Poverty Row. Next. That is a Tremcar. Tremcar is one of the founders of Tremcar Productions, which made westerns and things. Tremcar had his own movie ranch out in Placerita Canyon, which later became the famous Monogram Ranch and Melody Ranch of Gene Autry. So he was involved with Yates when this whole thing was formed. It was all formed, the exact month is, well, I don't have it right now in front of me, but it was 1935.
March 10, 1935.
See, she
when
remembers.
The Republic took over.
Right, it's March in 1935. So who was Herbert T. Yates? Herbert T. Yates is a very important character. He was a laboratory man, basically, in England. And he expanded here in the United States with his laboratories. He had several names for them. But eventually, by 1935, he had consolidated his laboratories, and it was called Consolidated Film Laboratories. Consolidated had labs in Hollywood. I know them well because CFI I was involved in filmmaking for years, still am, but actually I was involved with laboratory work for a while, and I used to pick up rushes, as we used to call them, I picked them up from the producer. I drove them to CFI, and then they would create the laboratory work for the rushes. The rushes is what you see the day shoot, and then we'd rush them back to the studio, and then everybody could see how bad they were, right, and what they missed. So CFI is so important. Now Pathé opened up a big lab as well in Hollywood, the Pathé Laboratories. The Pathé had studios as well. All these companies are all incestuous again, not only coming from Europe, but within the U.S. as well. There were American labs. And their laboratory was at the corner, it was at the northwest corner of Highland and Santa Monica Boulevard. It's now a public storage facility. That was the Pathé Labs. And there were other color labs. And then Howard Hughes, remember when he got into filmmaking and all this, he had his own lab, multicolor labs, which he had multicolors. And he had a special camera with 3 reels in it with different shades of the colors, like Technicolor had their labs on Seward Street and everywhere. And then, of course, on Cahuenga, the great Technicolor laboratories. You see, it's all so important. And one last thing about that subject, about Tremcar and all this, is that this laboratory practice goes back to, for example, when the Lasky Company came with the Squaw Man to Los Angeles, and they needed a laboratory in 1913, and the guys that had the Lasky DeMille barn had a laboratory. It was a studio, laboratory, and stage you could rent. See what I mean? Just like these guys were renting stage space, laboratories, work, etc. Next. This is Paul Malvern. He was another one of the founders of Monogram, and of course in Republic. Monogram was the biggest part of Republic until 1937, when they split apart and became their own studio, Monogram. And next one. And some of the early crossovers was the 3 Musketeers, like Musketeers, but the way they said it was 3 Mosquitoes, because of that's the way they talk. Now John Wayne later took the place of this guy. I forgot his name. Anybody out there know it? Of course, that's Ray Crash Corrigan, and that's Max Terhune. So who was this guy, which later became John Wayne's part? I can't remember, and I didn't have time to look it up. So never mind. Next. That's Monogram, which later built their studio at Sunset Avenue in East Hollywood, which later became KCET. Next. This is, of course, the 3 Musketeers again, and there's that guy, which I can't remember, and Max Terhune, and it's not Joan Crawford. Don't get on that one. And Ray Crash Corrigan, and I'll explain why his name was Crash. Keep going. I think we have 15 minutes left, right? A little longer? Good. Keep going. Oh yeah, there's John Wayne. There he is. Well, that's okay. That's Yakima Canuck, John Wayne, and starting, remember he was already working in other companies, but this is where he's becoming known, is with Republic. Next. And there he is throwing Yakima Canuck around. Yakima Canuck was a big man. He's throwing him around. John Wayne was strong then. That's Herbert T. Yates. Herbert T. Yates is, I can say, created out of nothing, these little companies, this major company. Republic was known as a major minor, like as a major, but then again it's a minor. It's kind of like this, like Columbia, very much like Columbia was. I remember Columbia was doing all these cheap films, but then they had all these classics, thanks to, of course, Frank Capra. Next. Their logos. These are the 1935 logo. Keep going. I have a whole bunch of logos for you to look at. That's their famous clock tower logo. Next. 35 to 45, 10th anniversary, using, of course, the clock tower logo. Next. More. That's on the stationery. This is on other ads. I mean, I have so many of these. Keep going. There's more. That's actually on the film itself, a frame enlargement. So is that. Oh yeah, that's right. Many years ago, during the anniversaries of Republic, we had these big events and things about Republic, and all the famous stars came and signed the poster. Tristan Kaufman is there. I wonder, is Linda Sterling there? There's Linda Sterling right there. Tom Steele, Monty Hale, Bob Livingston, Vera Ruba Ralston.
Below my mother is my father.
Oh, that's right there. Right, there he is. Next. Isn't that terrific?
We had them all. I'm the one.
Now, several people, I was doing this, going to do this lecture, and several people emailed me and said, you got something wrong. I mean, Republic was started in 1936. Thinking, no, it's 35. So I went and dug in my archives, which is really good. Original Motion Picture Herald, April 20th, 1935, talking about the merger and all this, what's going on. Next one, there's Trim Car. Next. And then up here, October 19th, 1935, increasing budget, merging studios. And there it mentions all the players. It says Lou Ayres, Richard Arlen, Helen Twelvetrees, Ben Lyon, Rod LaRoque, Roger Prime, Layla Hyams, Dark Continent. These are feature films about the Africa. Mentions all of them. Nat Levine, Vice President of Republic Pictures, also has 3 pictures in the works. They are $1,000 a minute. The Leathernecks Have Landed, and Hitchhike Lady. Now, how can you refute 1935 and 1936? Okay, next. Look at this, 1935, 36. This tells you everything you need to know. I'll let you read it. Oh, go back. Look, 8 great Western series by John Wayne. 4 big serials, including the Robinson Crusoe serial. Wow. Republic Entertainment, Forced Landing, Dancing Feet. These are features. And over here are more features. And more features, big features. There are a lot of money, those features. I mean, remember John Wayne did the, what was it, the Kentuckian?
Yeah.
The Kentuckian, it's a big picture about the Revolutionary War days. And during the war, they did big features during the war. In color, by the way. Next. John Wayne, of course, beginning to really get known. It's amazing. I didn't realize that he was unknown. I mean, people knew who he was in the B area, but nobody really knew who he was. He was one of the Bob Steeles or any of those guys. And look at his poster. This is an early one. And the poster art, of course, it's wonderful. I sold them years ago. I needed money. I had Randy Rides Alone, 3-sheet, signed by Paul Malvern, Lindsay Parsons, the producer, and John Wayne. And I sold it. And it was beautiful. It shows him with his horse and everything. And I also had a Jack Hoxsey poster, 3-sheet. Great one. Anyway, here we're back to the studio now. And we're already getting into the about 1938, 39, 40 period. You see the river here is still there. And you see this area across the river on Radford Drive was being used by the studio. There was a bridge going over there. The bridge was washed out a million times. Well, when the new CBS Studio Center people in the last few years, they built a brand new bridge going across just for the studio. The street, Radford, goes over as a county bridge, but they built their own bridge for their own people. So when you go to that lot, you can go to the next lot, and they built giant sound stages on this area in here. So they've expanded CBS there incredibly. It's just hardly recognizable. Next. In the neighborhood was Curry's Ice Cream at Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Canyon on the corner. I don't know if any of you, it's now the shopping center there. It's a FedEx or something. I don't know what it is. Next. You remember this, anybody? That's the Texaco Aviation Station, which is still, of course, the plane is gone. It's at the corner of Ventura Boulevard and Ventura Place. There's a gas station right there on the point. That's it. It's a shell now. Okay.
Can you go back one?
This is actually a real airplane. Okay, and there was another one of these at La Brea and Wilshire. I have a picture of it. I couldn't believe that they have two in LA. Why did they have this aviation? Because already at this time, the Burbank was becoming the aviation center in Los Angeles with Lockheed. Thank you. And they actually advertised that they make aviation fuel, and you can fuel your car, not with aviation fuel, but the fine quality fuels, you see, that we fuel airplanes with. That was their statement. Yes, next. And look at this. This is incredible. This shows the motels that grew up right on Ventura Boulevard, right by, what's the gate, what's the street there that's...
Carpenter.
Carpenter. Thank you. That Carpenter's right there. That's Carpenter. So aren't any of these existing anymore? One does, right? Maybe this one. But why do they have motels there? For two reasons. Because people were coming there to possibly buy a lot and build a house. They could stay in a motel nearby. And also a lot of extras and actors were coming, and it was too far to go into Hollywood, right? So they had a motel right next to the studio. That's the reason they were there. Not for any other, nefarious reasons, okay? Next. Nobody's ever seen that shot before either. It's never been published. I've been around a long time looking for this stuff. It's very exciting to me to see those motels, believe it or not. This is from a glass slide. The square one, that was used in the movie theater, to show ads and things. I found it somewhere, and I scanned it, and it came out pretty good. Next. This is this. I had this picture for years, and it's not in color. I only had a black and white print. And here, this friend of mine had this beautiful color print of the studio. I could not believe my eyes. So I had my friend Lynn at Decor Art Gallery, which is right at Ventura Boulevard, right next to the CVS, pretty much next to the CVS pharmacy there, place. She has a lot of my pictures of the history of Studio City and Hollywood there. So I urge you to go in. You don't have to buy anything, but go in and see the great display on the history of Los Angeles with the pictures that she blew up and framed beautifully.
And what's it called?
Decor Art Gallery, DECOR Gallery. And in the window, she has Frankenstein having tea. Okay? Can't miss it. Next. Here are the motels again. There's the Carpenter Gate, right there. They used to go into. It's closed, as you know now. And the river meandering around. And there's the back lot. And they had a western town back there. But they used the Monogram Ranch. They used Corriganville in later years. They used everybody else's western towns all over town. Next. This is a shot that was part of a panorama that shows you right across the street, showing you the famous Republic signs that used to be on every stage. And the Republic Studio, of course, as you can imagine, became a landmark in the, not just Studio City, but Los Angeles. Next. The beautiful administration building. Next. Good. Keep going. There we go. They had a little New York street back there. They had the little western town. They were developing the back lot. In other words, building new sets. Remember, they would clear away stuff, build new stuff. They were already, you can see back here, remnants of sets and a little jungle there. By the way, for CBS Studio Center, the Gilligan's Island jungle was right there.
Yep.
Right by the river. I have great shots of it, and it's gone. Oh, and back here with a little residential street for CBS. Remember the Cleaver House, we Leave It to Beaver and all that stuff? I actually threw in the Cleaver House for you to see at the end of the show. Next. Now, in the neighborhood was this is pre-Sportsman's Lodge. It was a special place where you could go tropical fish, aquarium supplies, but you can also go trout fishing. And you would trout fish, you would pick up the fish, and then in the early days, this is in the late 30s, early 40s, they could actually rustle it up for you, and you could eat it right there in the restaurant. That was the idea of the Sportsman's Lodge, and later they built the Sportsman's Lodge. But this is the beginning. I was looking for this picture for 30 years, and I found it. Unidentified, but I found it.
Where?
I don't even remember.
What location?
Oh, this is Coldwater. Well, it's not on the corner. It's just a little east of Coldwater and Ventura Boulevard, where the Sportsman's Lodge is today. Next. Okay, back to Republic and the cereals. Now, I was a stunt kid for 2 years, every Saturday and Sunday, at Corriganville in Simi Valley. Many of you might remember Corriganville. It was Ray Corrigan's ranch. And he opened it up early in about 1934, at the beginning of all this. For movie making, he needed money, like everybody did during the Depression. So the studios rented from him his ranch. And they built a western town, they built buildings, they did this, they built that. And the deal was they would build it and leave it. And he can continue to rent it. By the time the 1950s came along, he had a lake there, he had oak trees, he had a western town, he had all kinds of stuff going on there. So he started out as one of these contract players at Republic. And here he is in the Undersea Kingdom playing the lead role, which I always used to call him Chicken Man. Because he wore this helmet with a big chicken thing, like a rooster thing. You can see it right here. But the reason they call him Crash Corrigan is that, well, you'll see in a minute. Keep going. That's why. They tied him to the tank, and they rammed the gates. And they said, we're going to ram the gates if you don't tell them to open those gates. And he says, what did he say? Let him ram, or let it ram, or something like that with his face. And they rammed through the gate with him on the front. Go on. Next. John Wayne, of course, this is actually in Lone Pine. And Lone Pine was such a great place to shoot. They used the Iverson Ranch, which had similar rock formations, which you might know in Chatsworth, the Iverson Ranch. But Lone Pine is freaky. It is surreal. You have to go there, or at least go online and see the pictures, okay? Do that at least. But anyway, they made so many things there that they consider it the Republic's backlot. Next. This is Studio City. Now let me get oriented here. This is, I believe, Laurel Canyon. Fryman Canyon is right over here. Fryman Canyon, which is a park now, used to be a back lot as well for all the studios. They had built sets there and all this. So here it's coming down, and here's Ventura Boulevard, right here. And the studio's right out of the picture. You can't see it. But this is the intersection of Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Canyon. And look, nobody was here in those days. Nothing. But you see how the houses are starting to grow. This is one of the Lone Ranger serials, 15 episodes. And Saul Siegel was a very famous, later became one of the big producers in the 50s. And here he is featuring the Lone Ranger, a man of mystery, Silver by himself. Tonto was Chief Thundercloud at that time. I was privileged to know Jay Silverheels. And we talked about where they used to shoot stuff and whatever. His kid was at a kindergarten or something my mother ran, so I got to meet him there. That was a pleasure. Yeah, go back. This happened to be, I have all of the titles of this. This is the Zorro thing, but this is I think it was called, it's called the Fighting Legion. The Legion Ride. Zorro and the Fighting Legion with Reed Hadley. He was the star of it. And look at this. Look at this. He has the actual Z on there like a monogram. You know, like wow, that's very trendy. Okay. And you see how they cover their face. Now, the New Frontier, another John Wayne picture, using Yakima Canutt was one of his guys, and there was like they had like a stock company of all these cowboys. Most of them were not real cowboys. Some were though. But John Wayne was from USC. He was a football player. He was not a real cowboy. Okay. But Tom Mix was in the Army. He was in the cavalry. And William S. Hart was a stage actor from New York doing Shakespeare. So who was a real cowboy? You know, it's hard to find. There's a few. Art Acord and a few of them were real cowboys. Yeah, go on, next. Again, the typical thing is John is the bachelor, right? And look how she's looking at him. Like, oh, God, can't you stay? And all of those films, they want him to stay, you know, but he's riding off, right? Next. That's one of his horses. He had many horses. He had this white horse for quite a while. Gorgeous horse. Big horse, too. Very high. Next. Now, this is the later Three Musketeers. Finally, with John Wayne in it, Max Terhune and Ray Crash Corrigan. And what they were was based on, yes, the Three Musketeers, except as Westerners. Isn't that wonderful? And it was really good, and I enjoyed them.
Where's Elmer?
Oh, he's out there somewhere. He's there somewhere, don't worry. Next. The editing rooms at the studio. Or can you imagine the work there? They were doing serials, features, B-pictures, shorts. Oh my God. I mean, this was a working studio in a highly professional studio that people don't realize, really. Next. Nearby, in 1937, the Studio City Theater opened. I can hear all the moaning and groaning.
Where was that?
It's still there. It's a bookstore. What is it now?
Barnes and Noble.
Oh, it is still a bookstore. Bookstore. Is that what bookstore is? Barnes and Noble? See, I don't know. I don't know anything. Next. I used to go to that theater. I loved it. I lived on the other side of the hill. I was born in Echo Park, but my father got a GI Bill house in North Hollywood. We lived there 3 years. I was 3 years old, and he just hated it. Why? Super hot, no air conditioner. This is in 1946, 47, 48. There are no air conditioners. Oh, man. So he moved to the other side of the hill, and I ended up in West Hollywood. So. The Lone Ranger again, and there is Chief Thundercloud, who's a real Indian, apparently. And but look at the mask. You see, it was a dark mask with what do you call it? A scrim, like, you know, hanging down. Looked real weird. Actually, ladies, you know, very popular, posh ladies of the 20s and 30s would wear that mask. Remember? They would wear the scrim. Remember, so you don't see their face? What?
And the slip and stuff.
No, on their face. They pulled down, you've seen them in the movies, a scrim. A veil. It's like a veil. That's what he's doing. He's wearing a veil. Next. Here they are again, hanging out. Of course, Max Terhune was the comedy influence.
He's a real
Gene Autry,
Singing.
singing cowboy. Look at his wonderful boots, his great saddle. I mean, even this is beautifully done. He was an amazing man, Gene Autry. I mean, God, he was into so many things, so talented in so many ways. Not just business. Okay, next. Which he was, of course. That's that big white horse I was telling you about with John Wayne. And you know, he's a tall man. How tall was John? 6'4". 6'4". You see how tall? Well, the horse is taller than him. Horse is 6'6".
What's the age on the horse?
I don't know. That's probably the place where he got it, you know, where he got the horse. That's Raymond Hatton, who was, again, one of the sidekicks. Raymond Hatton goes back to DeMille, 1915 and 16. He was the king in Joan the Woman with Geraldine Farrar, and worked for DeMille for years and years and became a character actor doing westerns and everything else. Next. Again, the typical fight scenes. Next. Before World War II, right at the beginning, they had to build more stages, which they did, because Herbert T. Yates fell in love with Vera Ruba Ralston, who was the famous skater, and they had to build a giant stage for her skating movies. Next. Back to Roy Rogers. Oh, we didn't come back to him yet. Here's Roy Rogers. Remember, he was with Sons of the Pioneers. Gene Autry was the Autry ranch hands, right? And then et cetera, because music. They did musicals, remember, at Republic. All kinds of musicals. And they put music into the Westerns, right? Singing cowboys. Next. Look at that. Look at that unit. Why did he have this? Because they were spending so much time up in Lone Pine. Do you know that some of the guys rented houses up there? They actually lived there during months while they were making these films. Because remember, it's a 3-hour drive today, right? If you're going 70 miles an hour. In those days, almost all day would take to get up there. Next. It's on 395 in the Owens Valley, if you're wondering. That's Max Terhune on his horse. Next. This is the King of the Cowboys with Roy Rogers, right there. And look at this. This is the special camera car that they used to drive when they were running their horses or walking their horses. And they would actually do the scene, remember, on horseback with the microphone. And they had to make sure they went exact speed. And it's really complicated. Next. Roy, wearing his typical hat, typical kerchief, and his Western, he had all kinds of different Western shirts, different types. Next. This is a wonderful group shot showing Smiley Burnett and Roy Rogers and one of their, and this is the Sons of the Pioneers. Boing. Next. This is
Gabby on the horse.
Navajo Trail. The Navajo Trail. It's Gabby Hayes. Gabby Hayes goes way back, vaudeville and all this. He's a stage actor. It's amazing, these people, once I learned about it. I don't know, where did this Gabby Hayes guy come from?
Wellsville, New York.
What?
Wellsville, New York.
Yeah, but you have to understand, we have Hollywood heritage people here in the audience. Janet is one of them. Okay. Plus Janet used to run the Columbia Ranch. I'll say you ran it. No, you ran it. You were it. Okay, next. Again, that's Gene Autry and the Autry ranch hands. Look at their shirts with little flowers on them and everything. A typical Gene, I don't know, that's Sterling Holloway. But a typical Gene Autry, oh, that's the famous shirt that was designed for him that he wore in a lot of films. If you go to the Gene Autry museum now, you can actually get that shirt. I have one of them. Next. I got that shirt. This is the Iverson Ranch in Chatsworth where they shot stuff close by the studio. And this is typical from the camera car you just saw, showing you the famous, this is a famous technique of grabbing someone off a horse and onto one horse. Next. Very dangerous. Don't try it at home. Another shirt. See the different shirts that they designed. This was the whole thing, you see. It was not just Westerns. These were musical Westerns. They had fashion influences. They talked about all kinds of different issues in their screenplays and their stories. A lot of them were lovey-dovey stuff, yes, but there's all kinds of other things going on as well. When the war came, a lot of them were war-related things. Next. Themes. There's that car, and that's the Alabama Hills. That's Mount Whitney right up above. And I was just up there last weekend. I was right up there. I didn't climb to the top. It takes 20 hours. But I went to the base camp, where there's a restaurant there and you can park your car there and then you can take the trail up. I walked about a quarter mile. That's all I could do. I'm not going to go with 20 hours up the top. How long does it take to get down, I wonder? I did hike the Grand Canyon in 10 and a half hours, down and up. But that's when I was young. Next. Roy Rogers, another shirt. But look at the colors. There's gun belts. All these were made by the famous saddle makers. Nudie was one of them. Boland made all the leather and the saddles. And these guys were just, they had whole businesses. It was like a cottage industry, making all this for everyone. And I'm now working with the owners of the, in Van Nuys, the general store. He wants to create some new Western shirts and stuff, and using the old ones. And a lot of the people used his store, like King's. Remember, King's is gone now. King's Western store is gone, so that's the only one left there. Next. And then that camera car is used for these kind of shots. This is King of the Cowboys with Roy Rogers. And Trigger, thank you, Trigger. By the way, Trigger was actually used in the Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, and that's the Palomino that Olivia de Havilland rides. Maid Marian. Isn't that interesting? And that's Bullet. I love you, Bullet. I grew up with this. I love these animals. And look, Trigger's talking, by the way. Next, not Mr. Ed, Trigger.
And that was his own private horse, right?
Yes, it was. And he stuffed it later when Trigger died, and it was in the museum. I know it sounds horrible, but he loved that horse so much he had to have that horse near him. That horse has been sold at auction. I don't know where it is today. Keep going, next. Just typical, next. Next. I have a few dupes in here. Keep going, that's Studio City, Radford Drive. Oh yes, this is the corner of Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Canyon. There was a big Simon's Drive-In on the corner. This was a miniature golf right here. There's remember the ice cream? Remember the ice cream parlor? There it is right on the corner. Curry's Ice Cream. And the studio's right there, right up the block there. And the gas station, there it is. Oh, wait a minute, is the airplane there or is it gone?
Yeah.
You can see the
I think yeah, those are the wings. Yeah, the wings are still there.
What's
Wow.
the time?
This should be about 1938. Next. That's just a close. Oh, there's the Curry sign. That's why I shot it. I got a whole bunch of Curry shots. The front gate going into the studio. This is about 1939. There's the Guard, Republic Studios. 4024 Radford Drive, as it is today. Shots from Radford Drive. Keep going. Administration building. This is the scoring stage. They had music, remember. A lot of scoring going on. Next. More. Empty, of course, of an orchestra. Keep going. Oh, stop. This was that famous Roy Rogers musical. What was it called? Anybody? I didn't have time.
No?
It's the one which they had all the people on their horses. They're all singing together, and they all come together. There's like 100 horses and 100 people singing.
Don't fence me in? No.
Could be. It could be one of them. I just didn't have time to deal with it. But look, it's right where the Western Town is, right on the back lot at the studio. Next. This is a starlet, and this starlet is going for an audition, and she's going to the Guard and telling her that she has an audition, and the guy's going to, look how he's looking at it. Look how she's looking at him. And he's going to go in and make sure her name is there, and she'll go in and get her audition. Her name is Gail something. That's, of course, the, what? Captain Marvel, starring Tom Tyler. Tom Tyler, yeah. I'm somehow I'm remembering some of these names. I don't know why. I love this ad, don't you? Blazing out of space, hair-raising interplanetary adventure in the hidden cities of the moon, with the only man who can save Earth from awful destruction. Introducing a new all-action character, Commando Cody, Sky Marshal of the Universe, Radar Man from the Moon, starring George Wallace, of course. I just love Commando Cody. God, I loved it. Editing rooms. During the war, by the way, most of the men had to go to war, and all of the editing, pretty much 90% between 1942 and 1946 was all female editors.
Just like it was in the silent period.
Like it was in the silent period. It was all female editors throughout the whole silent period, and little by little men got in there. The women let them in. And then, but during the war, they got back. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, this is an eBay shot, but I couldn't help it. This is Veruba Ralston here, and John Wayne and the Kentuckian, and it's just a great shot. I just have to Photoshop out the eBay, and I'll have the shot. I can do that, but I didn't have time. Okay, this is the Crimson Skull serial, starring some guy. What's his name? But don't you love the getup? Joseph Forte played the Skull. The star was, what was his name? Yeah. Don't you love this? Isn't that great? Next. I have another one. Look at that.
Is that Sterling?
No, it's not Sterling.
Oh, it's John.
I didn't put their names.
John.
I figured I want him. Don't you? Next. Look at these. These are gloves. You can get those gloves. Remember this nut guy on the antique roadshow, or not antique thing, or remember he oh no, when you go and they dig in the storage containers, right? He was wearing these gloves, and they're skull, and they're not skull, they're skeleton hands. God, so it's nothing new.
John Davidson was the name of the guy.
John Davidson.
You know, you see that skull, the exact same skull logo on the Misfits Rock and Roll
Yes.
Group t-shirts.
Really?
That is taken from.
Really interesting. Thank you. Every studio had bicycles because everybody would ride from their stage to their dressing room to the commissary, and this is one of the starlets riding to her dressing room. Next. These were the three mosquitoes. They had the three chocolatiers. So a lot of black people watched Westerns. They loved Bob Steele. They loved all of these, but they had to see them in their own colored theaters. So they decided to give them something. They gave them their own dancing group, and that they loved the three chocolatiers. And the whole thing ran around the three chocolatiers, like the three mosquitoes. It's very interesting. But I found a picture recently, which is just very emotional picture. And it's a shot of Rex Allen visiting a theater for kids, and it's a total mixed group of kids, black kids and white kids together, in 1940 something. So unusual, but it was a great shot. What can I tell you?
Did they show something like this before the Westerns, or they have their own?
No. They had their own series of different short films, which they would be in. Next, nobody's ever heard of them. But they were great dancers, from what I was told. That is Eric von Stroheim.
Yep.
I know, Max, you're thinking of from Sunset Boulevard. This is, oh God.
Arlen and Vera.
Yeah, this is Vera, and this is, I don't have the title, sorry.
Not Dr. Crespi, is it?
Yes, it is, Dr. Crespi, thank you. And then there was one about Sherlock Holmes, and then there was another one with some strange name that he did, Dr. So-and-so. Next. That's Richard Arlen, yes. This was the Sherlock Holmes one, and that's a map of England. It's supposed to be England, of course. I know, I don't think he was Sherlock Holmes. I think he was something else, But this is I don't know what this is exactly, but that's Herbert T. Yates there, and that's Ray Milland. So I don't know the film. You'd have to help me with that. But look, they're coming out on stage 14, and this typical studio, family, and I don't know who the dog is. Yeah.
Ray did a movie in 1955.
So that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I just don't know which one it is.
A Western's called A Man Alone.
This is Dick Tracy Returns. Remember, he flies airplanes, and they use submachine guns. And this one is called Dick Tracy Returns, 1938, with Ralph Byrd. Next. Now, this gets confusing. That is Commando Cody, yes, but there were about, I think, 3 or 4 Commando Codys that played in different serials. And this robot, I love this robot. There were several of these, but they made a whole bunch of them. And they were used throughout so many different films, and not just the Republic. Other studios even used them. So whenever I see this, I go, and I have to think, what film could this be in? Because they use them everywhere. So here's Commando Cody actually knocking the thing off the front. And this was called Radar Men from the Moon. That's from that ad. And that's Judd Holdren, who's playing the Commando Cody. This was also used in Zombies from the Stratosphere. Next. Okay, this one. God, look at this tank. Isn't that great? I love these tanks. I think this one was Radar. Oh, that's Radar Men from the Moon. The other one was Zombies from the Stratosphere. Excuse me. Go back one. Go back. Okay, hold on. That's Red Rock Canyon off of Highway 15, right? 14. That's Red Rock Canyon. Isn't that fantastic? And all this was made in those shops on that, I was going to say here, right over there. Next. I keep forgetting I'm giving this lecture at the library, not at the studio. Again, typical, and look at this. This is so funny, is that you see his helmet and this jacket and the belt and the whole thing. Well, it's put over his suit. So he's wearing his suit pants and his nice suit shoes. It's true, you see it in the films. He doesn't change into a jumpsuit or anything. He's wearing a suit under there with his tie and everything. Next. Like James Bond, remember in Dr. No? Remember he goes, he takes off his wetsuit and he's wearing a tuxedo, right? Same thing. This is the Kentuckian again, Vera Haruba Ralston and John Wayne.
With some Brennan Marshall.
And there's the camera and all this. But the point is interesting about this is that people asked him all the time, what was it like working with Vera Haruba Ralston, right? Because she was a prima donna. Well, she loved John Wayne. So she was on her best behavior, and he felt she was a lady, and everything was fine. There was no problem between them, as opposed to other films she was working on, as you can imagine. Next. The wardrobe department. They had to service, serials and features and musicals and everything you can imagine. They were making all this stuff. It's an amazing thing, amazing job. All the studios did it too. That's the gate and the people coming in through the gate. There's the editing rooms right here. Next. We're now in the 40s, as you can imagine. This is the business office, and people coming in to maybe get a check or get scheduled for something. Next. Again, that's the different buildings, that production buildings. Next. No, she's not the guard at the gate. I don't remember what this. She is a starlet, and she's pretending to be the guard at the gate. Okay, they would do that. They would bring in at MGM. They would bring some starlet there. I remember Mickey Rooney brought these two young starlets, and they were at the front gate, and they're pretending to be the guards. Next. Again, that's the gate that we were just looking at, but changed. Review Productions was a special production company for television, and it was run by some...
MCA television.
Well, MCA took it over. MCA took it over and moved it over to when they took over Universal in 1963. That's why we have Review Productions here at this lot and also at Universal. It's all incestuous in that sense. Next. Now this is interesting. That's Rex Allen, and I forgot who's with him. But you see the background? You see all this? No, they're not at Lone Pine. Next shot. Look at that. It's rear projection. Isn't that great? Look at the potted plants. That's how they made these cheap films, you see. They went up to Lone Pine, but not all the time. Next. Again, keep going. Keep going, showing you the lot, how it's grown. Now this is the... Back one, real quick. That's the little residential street there where Leave It to Beaver, and what's the other shows that they did there?
My Three Sons.
Yeah, My Three Sons and all this stuff is all here on the back street right there. And there's a little New York street or a little small town set. That's where all that took place. Next. This just shows you the departments here, the different buildings, etc. Keep going. Color postcards were done in 1960. Four Star. You saw 4 Star. 4 Star is like Review. It's another owned by Burt Lancaster and who are the others? Dick Powell. Yeah, Dick Powell. Yeah, that's right. Now there's the tank. There's the water tank. There's the sky backing on the lot with the little boat scenes that they might do. There's the river. It's already now encased in concrete because remember it was flooding every studio in town there. There is, of course, the Carpenter Gate right there. There's Radford Drive. There's the parking lot, which is now, all of this is now part of the new CBS Studio Center. Big giant stages here and all kinds of facilities on this whole thing. Channel 2.
And Channel 9 and 2.
Channel 9 and 2, that's right. There's the 4 Star when it's the entrance for television. There's the scoring stage, scoring all of these different shows and films. There's a good close-up of it, how they're directing. She's singing. I don't know who she is, but she's singing. Next. There's the overall map of it taken. I think this was taken in. This was done in the 50s. It's in this book, but it shows you the go back one. So Mexican Street, Spanish Street, Hacienda Square. There's the New England Street, Suburban Street, Residential Street, Melody Ranch. Let's see what else. Western Street, New York Street, New York Square. In other words, Western Street is right next to New York Street. How do you like that? Next. There's the Carpenter Gate. We're getting near the end, so hang on. Here is the tank and the little lake. Next. And this is it. Hold on this real quick. Max Sennett brought he dedicated, when the studio opened in 1929, he had this beautiful plaque made, gorgeous giant plaque. On it says, "We dedicate this stage to the memory of a lovable artist, Mabel Normand," who he was in love with. Remember Mac and Mabel? "May we never forget her, a great soul who pioneered and gave her purpose to the early motion picture through this new art. She brought laughter and beauty, otherwise denied millions burdened with despair and drabness." Republic Studio, December 27th, 1940. I was put in 1940. That's Robert Florey. He was a famous French director who directed early television at Republic. Robert Florey goes all the way back to 1919 when he first came here as a correspondent. I got this picture from him. He was a friend of mine. And he came here, and Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks took him under their wing, and he shot pictures and wrote all about Hollywood all through the 20s, 30s, 40s, and became a director in the 30s. He directed Hollywood Boulevard, 1936, all about Hollywood subjects, and he was here posing. And I'm so glad I got it.
It's just an honorary. Mabel Normand never stepped foot on this stage.
Exactly.
Never
People
tried.
think that's her stage, and she was making Keystone films there. You see, she wasn't. It was just dedication. She died when, I forget when she died.
Yeah, she died, around.
She died in 1930, right?
Yeah.
I think 30. Next. That's Robert Florey walking with a friend around this lot, and he had a series of him shots walking around the lot because it was an article for France. And there's secretaries, or I don't know what they are. They're not actresses. I think they're personnel working in. They eventually closed off the door here by 1950. By the way, it's at half-mast, the American flag. I wonder what happened there. Next. And then these different ads through all the trades over the years. "Welcome to Republic, the friendly studio." Next. That's Vera Hruba Ralston, dressed up in one of her fineries on the Western Town set. It's okay, we don't have to go back. This just showing you in great detail everything on this lot. I have this lot documented, like as you see.
Where's the scoring stage, please?
I don't remember. I don't know.
They tore it down.
Yeah, but in this shot, it was here, right? It had to be one of these, probably this one. I don't know. I'm making a guess. Oh, by the way, this stage later became the Mary Tyler Moore stage. That one. And you can enter right into the stage, right in there from the street. They still do. There's still some show there now. I don't know what it is. But you can enter right from the street, right inside, as an audience. Next. Again. Look, there's the Western Street. Remember, Gunsmoke was there.
Yep.
That's the Gunsmoke Street.
Wanted, Dead or Alive.
Wanted, Dead or Alive, and others. There's more shots of it taken in the 50s at the time of Gunsmoke. Isn't that amazing? That's right there, right next to New York Street. There's one of the stages. There you go. We're almost near the end now. That's the little small town sets, remember, from Beaver Cleaver and all this stuff. And then what I just told you, the main studio lot, okay, let me get my bearings here. Here's Radford Drive. The river is here. You see it goes into two forks here?
Yes.
So, let's see now, where am I? Yeah, oh, that's it. That's it. That area there where the parking lot was, that empty area, is now 1, 2, 3 stages, office buildings, and all kinds of other facilities. Okay, keep going, one more. That's of course the James Oness on that street and that's the Cleaver House. And I think I have one more. Campo de Cahuenga, which is part of Studio City, and Ventura Boulevard, right by the studio. And there it is. I think that's the last shot. CBS Studio Center. No, that's the intersection of Laurel Canyon and Ventura Boulevard. Oh yeah, forgot. Of course, Richard Boone. He moved from Raleigh studio, where they used to shoot Have Gun Will Travel for years, and moved it to CBS. And remember, they went into color.
Mark,
Yeah.
if you watch the show, it says Paramount. So I'm confused. I mean,
What shows Paramount?
Have Gun Will Travel. It said Paramount. So what? But you shot there?
It was they're not Paramount.
No. If you watch Have Gun Will Travel, they'll say Paramount.
I don't remember. I don't know why. I don't know what the connection is. I don't know of any connection. It was a CBS show.
They all rented out space to each other, because when I worked at Disney,
Well, they were at-
Paramount would be cutting on the Disney lot.
Well, I mean, Bonanza was not a Paramount show, but it was shot at Paramount.
Right.
So that's similar. All right, anyway, more? Oh yeah, that's the Sportsman's Lodge with Buddy Hackett and Mickey Rooney. I forgot what it's called, the Duck something or other. I don't know. Next, and I think they might remember the Camera Exchange. It's gone now.
Yes.
The toy store. Next,
Ventura Boulevard.
I think that's it.
I forgot the street.
Vantage.
Vantage.
That's it.
And
Vantage.
is that the last one? That's the last slide. Thank you. Phew. Any questions? We're right here, so any of you feel free to leave. No, thank you for making this happen.
It was fantastic, and I have so many of your books, and I really
Good.
enjoy them. I have a quick question for
Yeah.
you. Tiffany Studios wasn't part of Poverty Row,
Yes?
but Tiffany Studios was at Hollywood and Sunset.
No, they
which
moved
is-
around.
Oh, they did?
They ended up at the old D.W. Griffith studio at Virgil and Sunset Boulevard in East Hollywood. That's where they ended up.
In 1932?
Later.
Oh, later. Okay.
Later.
All right.
No, early they were Beach Drive and Sunset.
What was Tiffany?
Tiffany was what she just asked.
It was
They were-
actually Mae Murray's started the studio with one of her husbands.
They were in all kinds of places, but
Yeah.
you know,
I don't know if you
Poverty
know,
Row.
Mark, I don't know if you were this.
Yeah.
Monty Hale did a Western called Out California Way, 1945, in color. And the beginning is in the front of Republic Studios. You see the whole front.
I'd like to get a frame enlargement of that.
Yeah, it's called Out California Way,
All right.
1945. And what's his name? Little Beaver. What's his name?
Blake.
Yeah, so he's in there.
What's it again?
Out California Way. I was going to tell your audience that, but I didn't get a chance.
No, we had no time.
1945, Monty Hale, and you're going to go nuts when you see it. The beginning, the front, the whole front of Republic Studios.
Beginning.
1945.
Sure. Republic Studio. Okay.
It's on DVD somewhere.
So I was
Oh,
going to
sorry.
ask you, you're talking about this new book you're writing about the first studios.
Poverty Row. It's called Early Poverty Row
Yeah.
Studios.
So do you have any recollection of Selig Polyscope? Of
course.
Oh, good.
It's covered in the book.
Yeah, my father actually worked at the zoo when he was in
Wow.
high school. And I, at home, when he passed away,
Yes.
and I'm looking at the stuff, he's got the Selig Polyscope promotional magazines for all their films from like the 1910s, 12s.
if you like to-
Unfortunately, some of the reds of the, like leaking through, so I've
Do you have
got
any
to
plans for those?
No, I
Because I would like it if you could donate those to the Academy, which I represent.
which
They should be preserved. Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Yes, I'm going to give you my card.
Yes.
Right here. And do you have a card? And I've got other stuff too. But yeah, I've
forgot
got a
to bring
couple of
them
them.
in.
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
I forgot to bring my cards in. All right, I'll just contact you. Selig, I'll put.
Selig Polyscope.
Yeah, I'll just put Selig and I'll know. I'll call you.
Yeah. Good.
All right.
And I'm on the board of directors for the College of Arts, Media, and Communication at Cal State Northridge.
Oh, I know. Somebody just emailed me if I was a member or something. I said no.
Yeah. Also, I'm on the board of the Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters.
Oh, what about the stuff? Excuse me, 1 second. What about the collection of their stuff underneath
It's in
Sunset
Thousand
and
Oaks.
Vine?
It all moved.
It was
moved out.
removed.
Yeah, it's all moved. It's all safe at Thousand Oaks.
I
They're
better write
building
down
a
that
whole
too.
thing in Thousand Oaks.
Pioneer Broadcasters. I want to talk to you about all that because
Yeah,
I'm
you
very
can be a
familiar
member of
with
that
it.
too. It's $55 a year, and we just had our luncheon yesterday. Fred Willard was who we.
I just saw Fred last night.
Yeah.
He was at Hollywood Heritage.
Yes,
thing.
yeah. And we just presented him
Broadcasters.
with an award. And
All right, I'll talk to you about all this later.
Absolutely. Well, that's my cell phone on there. No problem. Thank you.
Late.
Yes.
Are you going to be doing this?
No, I don't.